The tavern smelled like old metal and cheap fuel. Smoke filled the air from burning herbs that the tyranni liked to chew. The walls were dark and stained from years of spilled drinks and forgotten fights. It was the kind of place where soldiers came to forget. The kind of place where old warriors came to remember. Vecra sat alone in the corner. His scales were gray now, faded from the deep green of his youth. 3 long scars ran down the left side of his face, cutting through his eye socket. That eye was gone, replaced with a simple black patch. He did not want a mechanical replacement. The scars reminded him of things he needed to remember. He lifted his drink with a hand that had only 3 fingers left. The other 2 had been taken by plasma fire many cycles ago. He did not mind. He had given much more than fingers to the war. The tavern was loud tonight. Young Torani soldiers filled the tables, fresh from their first deployment. They wore their new armor like badges of honor. They laughed too loud and drank too fast. Vecra remembered being like them once. That felt like 1,000 lifetimes ago. A group of 5 young soldiers approached his table. They moved with the confidence of those who had never truly faced death. Vecra did not look up from his drink. "You are Vecra, yes?" the tallest one asked. His scales were still bright green, unmarked by battle. "The one who fought in the Keth 7 campaign?" Vecra took a slow drink. "I am." The young soldiers exchanged excited looks. One of them, a female with eager yellow eyes, leaned forward. "They say you fought alongside humans. Is it true?" The tavern grew quiet. Other soldiers at nearby tables turned to listen. The word human had that effect. It made people stop and pay attention. Vecra finally looked up. His single eye moved across their young faces. He saw excitement there. Curiosity. The foolish hunger for stories of glory and battle. "Sit down," he said. His voice was rough like gravel scraping stone. "But I warn you. What I tell you is not a story of glory. It is a story of fear." The young soldiers sat quickly, pulling chairs close. Others from nearby tables drifted over, forming a small crowd around the old veteran. Vecra waited until they were settled. Then he began. "The Keth 7 campaign was 30 cycles ago," he said. "The Drell Collective had taken the mining colonies. Our forces were sent to take them back. It was supposed to be simple. The Drell were many, but they were not skilled fighters. We had numbers, we had weapons, we had confidence." He paused to drink again. The memory was still fresh, even after all these years. On the 3rd day, Command told us we would receive support. Allied forces from the human coalition. We had heard of humans, of course. Small creatures from a small planet in a distant system. They had only been part of the galactic community for 50 cycles. We thought nothing of them. One of the young soldiers laughed. "Humans? They are so small. How could they help in battle?" Vecra's eye fixed on the young one. The laughter died in the soldier's throat. "That is exactly what we thought," Vecra said. "We were fools." He set down his drink and leaned back in his chair. The old wood creaked under his weight. The humans arrived at dawn. There were only 12 of them. 12. To support our force of 300. We thought Command was making a joke. Our captain, Rothar, went to meet their leader. Vecra closed his eye, remembering. Their leader was a male named Te-Ho. He was small, even for a human. His head barely reached Rothar's chest. He had dark hair cut short, and eyes like black stones. Cold. Steady. When he looked at you, it felt like he was measuring something inside you. "What was he measuring?" the female soldier asked. "I did not know then," Vecra said. "Now I believe he was measuring how long you would survive." A chill seemed to pass through the gathered soldiers. Vecra continued. With Te-Ho was his second, a female named Yuna. She was even smaller than him. She carried a long rifle on her back, the kind used for shooting from great distances. She smiled when she saw us. It was a pleasant smile. Friendly. But her eyes never smiled. They watched everything. Calculated everything. The other 10 humans spread out behind their leaders. They moved in perfect silence. No wasted motion. No unnecessary sound. They wore dark armor that seemed to eat the light around it, and they carried weapons I had never seen before. Vecra opened his eye and looked at his audience. Rothar welcomed them with the traditional greeting. He told them we were honored to have their support, though his voice made it clear he thought we needed no help. Tejo simply nodded. He did not boast. He did not make promises. He just said 4 words. The young soldiers leaned forward. "What did he say?" one whispered. Vecra's voice dropped low. He said, "Show us the enemy." The old veteran shook his head slowly. We laughed. Some of us actually laughed. These tiny creatures wanted to see the enemy? The Drell had thousands of soldiers in the mining complex. They had fortified positions and heavy weapons. And these 12 small beings wanted to see them? He picked up his drink again but did not sip it. He just held it, staring at the dark liquid inside. That night, I could not sleep. Something about the humans bothered me. I left my tent and walked through the camp. That is when I saw them. Saw what? The tall soldier asked. The humans. All 12 of them. They sat in a circle in complete darkness. No fire. No lights. Just sitting in the shadows. None of them spoke. None of them moved. They just sat there, staring at the enemy base in the distance. Vecra's hand tightened around his glass. I watched them for a long time. Not one of them moved, even a single muscle. They breathed so slowly, I could not see their chests rise. It was like watching statues, like watching predators waiting for prey. He finally drank, emptying his glass. That was the first time I felt fear. Not of the enemy. Not of the Drell. I felt fear of the small creatures who had come to help us, because in that moment, sitting in perfect stillness and silence, they did not look like allies. They looked like something ancient. Something that had been hunting long before my species learned to walk. Vecra set down his empty glass and looked at the young soldiers around him. That was only the beginning. The real fear came later, when I saw what they could do. The tavern was completely silent now. Every eye was on the old veteran. He raised his 3-fingered hand and signaled for another drink. But that is a story for the next telling. Unless you have already heard enough, not one soldier left. They waited, hungry for more. Vecra smiled grimly. They wanted to know about humans. They would learn. And they would never forget. Vecra's second drink arrived. He wrapped his damaged hand around the glass but did not lift it. The young soldiers waited in tense silence. The old veteran stared at the table, as if he could see the past reflected in its scratched surface. The morning after I saw the humans sitting in darkness, the attack began, he said. Our Captain Rothar had planned a direct assault. We would hit the main gate of the mining complex with all 300 soldiers. Simple. Brutal. Effective against the Drell. He finally lifted his drink and took a small sip. Tejo listened to the plan. His face showed nothing. When Rothar finished, the human simply said that his team would take a different path. Rothar asked what path. Tejo pointed to the eastern cliff, a wall of stone that rose straight up for 200 meters. One of the young soldiers frowned. He wanted to climb that? During battle? Rothar laughed at him, Vecra said. He told Tejo that no creature could climb that cliff. It was smooth stone with no handholds. The human looked at the cliff, then looked back at Rothar. He said nothing. He just turned and walked away with his team. Vecra shook his head at the memory. We thought they were cowards. Running away before the battle even started. Some soldiers made jokes about the tiny humans. I did not laugh. I remembered what I had seen the night before. Those were not the movements of cowards. He set down his drink and pressed his palm flat against the table. The attack began at midday. 300 Torani soldiers charged the main gate. The Drell were ready for us. They had placed heavy guns on the walls. Plasma fire rained down like a storm. In the first minute, we lost 20 soldiers. In the second minute, we lost 30 more. The young female soldier's yellow eyes went wide. 50 soldiers in 2 minutes? The Drell had prepared well, Vecra said. We were trapped in an open field with no cover. The retreat horn sounded, but falling back meant crossing that same open ground. More would die. His voice grew quieter. That is when the screaming started. But it did not come from our soldiers. It came from inside the complex. The gathered soldiers exchanged confused looks. Vecra continued. The heavy guns stopped firing. One by one, they went silent. We did not understand. Rothar ordered us to hold position. We waited. Listening. From inside the walls, we heard sounds I will never forget. Explosions. Weapons. Fire. And screaming. So much screaming. He closed his eye. The main gate opened. Not slowly. Like someone was operating the controls. It exploded outward. A Drell soldier flew through the smoke and landed 10 meters in front of our lines. He was still alive. He was crawling toward us. Crawling away from whatever was behind him. What was behind him? The tall soldier whispered. Vecra opened his eye. Tejo walked out of the smoke. His dark armor was covered in blood. None of it was his. He held a blade in each hand. Short blades, curved like the claws of a beast. They dripped red onto the ground. The old veteran's voice dropped even lower. He looked at the crawling Drell. Then he looked at us. His face was completely calm. No anger. No excitement. Nothing. He could have been walking through a garden. He stepped over the dying Drell and approached Rothar. Vecra mimicked the human's voice. Flat and emotionless, he said. The eastern section is clear. My team will move to the western towers. Suggest you advance now. Then, he turned and walked back into the smoke. Like it was nothing. Like he had not just cut through an entire fortified position with 11 other soldiers. One of the young Torani soldiers shifted uncomfortably. They cleared a fortified position? Just 12 of them? We entered the complex, Vecra said. What we found inside still lives in my nightmares. The Drell defenders were dead. All of them. But not from plasma, fire, or explosions. Most of them had been killed with blades. Up close. Personal. Silent. He held up his three-fingered hand. The humans had climbed that impossible cliff. They had entered through a ventilation system too small for any Torani to fit through. They had moved through the complex like ghosts. By the time the Drell knew they were under attack, half of them were already dead. The tavern remained silent. Vecra continued. I found Yuna on the second level. She was sitting by a window, cleaning her rifle. Around her were the bodies of 12 Drell snipers. 12. She had killed them all before any of them could fire a single shot. When she saw me, she smiled that friendly smile. But her eyes were still cold, still calculating. She said hello to me. Like we were meeting at a social gathering. Like she was not surrounded by the bodies of enemies she had just killed. I asked her how they had done it. How 12 humans had defeated hundreds of Drell. Vecra picked up his drink again. She thought about my question for a moment. Then she said something I have never forgotten. She said, we did not defeat them. We hunted them. There is a difference. The female soldier leaned forward. What is the difference? I asked her the same thing, Vecra said. She explained it to me while she continued cleaning her rifle. She said that defeating an enemy means you fight them. You clash with them. You overcome their strength with your own strength. But hunting is different. He emptied his glass in one long drink. Hunting means you never let them fight back. You find them before they find you. You kill them before they know you are there. You remove them one by one until none are left. It is not a battle. It is an elimination. The old veteran signaled for another drink. His movements were slower now, heavier with memory. Over the next 2 days, I watched the humans work. They never attacked directly. They never gave the Drell a fair fight. They struck from shadows. They killed in silence. They disappeared before anyone could respond. And always, they remained calm. That was the part that disturbed me most. When Torani fight, we feel rage. We feel the fire of battle in our blood. It drives us forward, but humans feel nothing. or if they do feel something, they lock it away where no one can see it. One of the young soldiers spoke up. Maybe they are just without emotion. Some species are like that. Vecra shook his head firmly. No. That is what I thought at first. But I was wrong. Humans feel deeply. Perhaps more deeply than any species I have known. I learned this later, in a moment that changed everything I believed about them. What moment? Several soldiers asked at once. The old veteran's new drink arrived. He stared at it, but did not touch it. On the 4th day of the campaign, we found a Drell prisoner camp. Inside were civilians from the mining colonies. Families. Children. His voice grew rough with old emotion. The Drell had not treated them well. Many were injured. Some were dying. When we entered that camp, the Torani soldiers felt anger. We wanted revenge against the Drell for what they had done. He finally met the eyes of his audience. But the humans did not show anger. They showed something worse. Something I had never seen from them before. For the first time, since I had met them, I saw emotion on their faces. What emotion? The female soldier asked quietly. Vecra's damaged hand curled into a fist. Cold fury. Not hot rage like we Torani feel. This was different. This was ice. This was control. This was a promise that someone would pay for what had been done to those civilians. And when Tejo looked at me, I understood something terrible. He leaned forward, his single eye burning with old memory. The calm I had seen before? The cold efficiency? That was humans holding themselves back. That was humans being professional. But now, seeing those suffering civilians, the humans had found a reason to stop holding back. Vecra picked up his drink at last. What happened next taught me the true meaning of fear. Not fear of monsters. Fear of hunters who had found their prey. And their prey had made them angry. He drank deeply, preparing himself for the memories to come. The tavern had grown more crowded. Word had spread that old Vecra was telling stories of humans. Soldiers from other tables had gathered close, standing in rings around the seated group. Even the bartender had stopped serving to listen. Vecra noticed the larger audience but said nothing about it. He simply continued his tale. After we found the prisoner camp, everything changed. The mission was no longer about taking back mining colonies. For the humans, it became something else. Something personal. He traced one of the scars on his face with a remaining finger. The Drell Command Center was 3 kilometers north. Intelligence said there were over 1,000 soldiers defending it. Rothar wanted to wait for reinforcements. He said we did not have the numbers for a direct assault. Tejo disagreed. He did not argue with Rothar. He did not raise his voice. He simply said that his team would go ahead. They would soften the target. Rothar could bring the main force when ready. One of the young soldiers frowned. 12 against 1,000? That is suicide. That is what Rothar told him, Vecra said. Tejo looked at our captain for a long moment. Then he said something that made the scales on my neck stand up. He said, 1,000 is not enough to stop us. Not tonight. The old veteran shifted in his seat, his joints creaking with age. I did something foolish then. I volunteered to go with them. I do not know why. Perhaps I wanted to understand these strange creatures. Perhaps I wanted to see if they were truly as dangerous as they seemed. Tejo looked at me with those cold black eyes. Then, he nodded once. You went with them? The female soldier asked. Into 1,000 enemies? I did, and what I saw that night changed me forever. Vecra's voice grew distant, lost in memory. We left at sunset. The 12 humans moved through the forest like shadows. No sound. No trace. I am a trained soldier. I know how to move quietly. But compared to them, I was like a child stomping through dry leaves. Yuna stayed close to me. I think she was assigned to keep me alive. She moved beside me without making any noise at all. Her feet seemed to know exactly where to step, every root, every branch, every loose stone. She avoided them all without even looking down. He shook his head slowly. Halfway to the target, Tejo raised his fist. Everyone stopped instantly. I froze. trying to see what he had seen. The forest was dark. I could see nothing, but Tejo was staring at a specific spot between two trees. A patrol, Vecra continued. 15 Drell soldiers walking through the forest. I had not heard them. I had not seen them. But Tejo knew they were there. He made a series of hand signals. The humans split apart, melting into the darkness. The old veteran's single eye grew unfocused. What happened next took less than 30 seconds. I did not see most of it. I only saw the results. One moment, 15 Drell soldiers were walking through the forest. The next moment, 15 bodies lay on the ground. Not a single shot was fired. Not a single scream escaped. The humans had killed them all, in perfect silence. How? The tall soldier whispered. How is that possible? I asked Yuna the same question. She showed me her blade. It was a thin piece of metal, no longer than my hand. She said humans had been hunting since before they learned to make tools. It was in their blood, in their bones. They had spent millions of years becoming perfect predators. Vecra picked up his drink but did not sip it. We reached the edge of the command center at midnight. The Drell had built walls and towers and defensive positions. Lights swept across the ground. Guards patrolled every entrance. It looked impossible to breach. Tejo studied the defenses for several minutes. Then he pointed to a dark section of wall near the eastern tower. He said that was where they would enter. I looked at the wall. I saw nothing. No door. No window. Nothing but solid metal. I asked how they would get through. Tejo said they would not go through. They would go under. The gathered soldiers exchanged confused looks. Vecra continued. There was a drainage system beneath the wall, a tunnel barely half a meter wide. Too small for Torani. Too small for Drell, but not too small for humans. They would crawl through the tunnel, emerge inside the compound, and begin their hunt. Yuna set up her rifle on a small hill overlooking the compound. She told me to stay with her. She said I would be more useful watching than crawling. I think she was being kind. She knew I could not fit in that tunnel. Vecra finally drank, a small sip to wet his throat. For the next 3 hours, I watched something I will never forget. Yuna lay perfectly still beside me. Her eye pressed to her rifle scope. She did not move. She barely breathed. She simply watched and waited. Inside the compound, the humans worked. I could not see them. No one could see them. But I saw the results. Guards vanished from their posts. Lights went dark one by one. Bodies appeared in places where no one had seen anyone approach. Every few minutes, Yuna would fire her rifle. The sound was soft, almost gentle. Each time she fired, a Drell soldier would fall. She was killing targets over a kilometer away, in the dark, through windows and gaps in the walls. She never missed, not once. The female soldier shook her head in disbelief. That level of accuracy is impossible. I thought so too, Vecra said. But I watched her do it. Again and again. She would wait for the perfect moment. The perfect angle. Then she would squeeze the trigger, and another enemy would die. She called it patience. She said humans were very good at waiting. His voice grew heavy with old fear. By the time Tejo signaled for the main assault, half the garrison was already dead. Half. Over 500 soldiers killed by 12 humans and a sniper. The rest did not even know they were under attack. They thought the disappearances were caused by equipment failures, by accidents, by anything except the truth. When the humans finally revealed themselves, it was chaos. The Drell tried to fight back, but they did not know where to aim. The humans were everywhere and nowhere. They struck from darkness and vanished before anyone could respond. Vecra set down his glass and stared at his damaged hand. I watched Tejo fight that night. Really fight, not just the silent killing from before. A group of Drell soldiers cornered him in a corridor. 20 of them against one human. They thought they had him trapped. His remaining fingers curled into a fist. He killed all 20 in less than a minute. He moved so fast I could barely follow him with my eyes. His blades flashed in the darkness like living things. He did not waste a single movement. Every step, every strike, every breath was perfect. It was like watching a machine designed for nothing but death. And through it all, his face never changed. No anger, no excitement, no fear. Just that terrible calm, that cold focus. He was not a soldier fighting enemies. He was a force of nature doing what it was made to do. Vecra looked up at his audience. When the sun rose, the command center was ours. The Drell were dead or scattered. We had won. But I did not feel like a winner. I felt like someone who had witnessed something ancient and terrible, something that should not exist in a civilized galaxy. He signaled for another drink. That was the night I learned what humans truly are. Not allies, not soldiers, not even warriors. They are hunters. The universe's most perfect hunters. And we had been foolish enough to invite them to our war. The new drink arrived. Vecra wrapped his fingers around it and stared into the dark liquid. But even that was not the worst of it. The worst came later. When I saw what happens when a human decides to stop hunting and starts to protect, that is when I learned that fear comes in many forms. Vecra did not touch his new drink. He sat in silence for a long moment, gathering himself for what came next. The crowd around him had grown even larger. Young soldiers stood 3 deep, straining to hear every word. After the command center fell, we thought the campaign was over. He finally said, "The Drell were broken. Their leaders were dead." We began clearing the remaining outposts, expecting little resistance. Oh, his voice grew darker. We were wrong. The Drell had one final card to play. A hidden base, deep in the mountains. A fortress we knew nothing about. They had been gathering their remaining forces there, preparing for one last desperate strike. The old veteran touched the scars on his face. My squad was sent to scout the northern passes. 20 Tarani soldiers. We thought we would find nothing. We found 300 Drell instead. One of the young soldiers shifted uncomfortably. An ambush? A slaughter, Vecra corrected. They hit us from every direction. We had no cover, no support, no chance. In 5 minutes, my entire squad was dead. All except me. He traced the line where his eye had once been. They wanted information. They wanted to know our numbers, our positions, our plans. So they took me alive. They dragged me to their hidden base and locked me in a cell made of cold stone. The tavern was utterly silent. Vecra continued, "For 3 days, they worked on me. I will not describe what they did. Some things should not be spoken aloud. I will only say that they took pieces of me. Not just my eye. Not just my fingers. Pieces of who I was." His damaged hand trembled slightly. By the 3rd day, I had stopped hoping for rescue. I had stopped hoping for anything. I simply waited for death. It seemed like the only escape. He looked up at the gathered soldiers. On the 4th night, the screaming started. But this time, it was not my screaming. It came from somewhere else in the base. Distant at first, then closer, and closer. Vecra's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. The guards outside my cell became nervous. They whispered to each other. They checked their weapons. They stared at the door like they expected a monster to come through it. They were not wrong. The old veteran picked up his drink at last, taking a long swallow. The door did not open. It exploded inward. Pieces of metal flew across the cell. One guard was killed instantly by the debris. The other raised his weapon, trying to aim at the doorway. He never got the chance. A shadow moved through the smoke. A blade flashed. The guard fell, and then Tejo was standing in front of me. Vecra set down his glass carefully. He was covered in blood. His armor was damaged. He had cuts on his face and arms. But his eyes were the same as always. Cold, calm, focused. He looked at me and said 3 words. "I found you." The female soldier leaned forward. "He came alone? Into an enemy fortress?" "Alone," Vecra confirmed. 300 Drell soldiers stood between him and my cell. He went through every single one. I learned later that the base had called for reinforcements. By the time those reinforcements arrived, There was no one left to save. How long did it take him? The tall soldier asked. Less than 2 hours. One human, alone, against 300 trained soldiers in a fortified position. 2 hours. I still do not believe it sometimes, but I saw the bodies. I walked past them as Taeho carried me out. Vekra's voice grew heavy. But it was not the killing that haunted me. It was his face. For the first time since I had known him, I saw something other than cold calm. I saw rage. Not wild rage. Not hot anger. Something much worse. He struggled to find the right words. It was controlled rage. Directed rage. Every emotion he felt had been compressed into a single purpose. Destroy anyone who stood between him and his goal. There was no mercy in his eyes. No hesitation. Just cold, absolute fury. He was not hunting that night. He was punishing. And the Drell learned what it means to earn a human's punishment. One of the young soldiers spoke quietly. Why did he come? Why risk everything for one Tarani soldier? Vekra smiled grimly. I asked him the same question. When he was carrying me through the bodies, I asked why he had come, why he had not waited for backup, why he had not followed the safe path. What did he say? The old veteran's voice cracked slightly. He said I was his comrade. He said humans do not leave comrades behind. He said that when someone hurts a friend, you do not wait. You do not calculate. You act. Vekra looked at his damaged hand. He said that humans have a word for it. Pack. He said I was part of his pack now. And humans protect their pack. No matter the cost. No matter the odds. No matter what stands in the way. The Drell had captured one Tarani soldier. They thought it would hurt our army. Instead, they earned themselves a death sentence. Because one Tarani soldier had been adopted by humans. The crowd of soldiers shifted uneasily. Vekra continued. Yuna was waiting at the base entrance. She had killed every patrol, every scout, every messenger who tried to leave the area. No one had escaped to warn others. She had sat alone in the darkness for 2 days. Watching, waiting, killing anyone who might bring danger to Taeho's mission. Skewed. When she saw me, she smiled that friendly smile. She said she was glad I was alive. She said the others had wanted to come too. But Taeho had ordered them to protect the civilian camp. She said humans never abandon the vulnerable. Even for rescue missions. Vekra shook his head slowly. I did not understand at first. 12 soldiers had been assigned to protect civilians. Only 2 had come for me. It seemed like too few. But then I remembered what those 2 had done. What they were capable of. 2 was enough. 2 was more than enough. He picked up his drink again, staring into it. As Taeho carried me away from that base, I asked him one more question. I asked if he had felt anything, if killing all those soldiers had affected him at all. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said that every kill affected him. Every death added weight to his soul. He said humans carry their kills with them forever. They do not forget. They cannot forget. I asked how he continued. How he kept fighting. Kept killing. If it hurt him so much. Vekra's voice dropped. He said that some things are worth carrying that weight for. Protecting innocence. Saving comrades. Stopping evil. He said that humans are cursed to feel deeply, but that curse is also their strength. Because they feel pain, they fight to end pain. Because they know suffering, they fight to stop suffering. Then he said something that stayed with me ever since. He said, we are not monsters, but we know how to become monsters when monsters are needed. The difference is that we choose, and we carry the cost of that choice. The old veteran finished his drink. That is what makes humans truly terrifying. Not their skills, not their weapons, not their cold efficiency. It is knowing that every terrible thing they do hurts them. And they do it anyway. Because something matters more than their own pain. He set down his empty glass. The Drell thought they could break me. They thought pain would make me give them what they wanted. But humans? Humans understand pain better than any species in the galaxy. They live with it, they fight through it, they use it, and they will walk through fire and blood and death to protect the ones they choose to protect. Vecra looked at the silent crowd around him. The campaign ended 2 days later. The Drell surrendered. They had heard what happened at the mountain base. They had heard about the human who came alone, and they wanted no more part of this war. But my story is not yet finished. I have told you what humans can do. Now I must tell you why they are feared. Not just respected, feared. And that requires one more tale. The night had grown late. Most of the tavern's regular customers had left. Only soldiers remained, packed tight around Vecra's corner table. Even the bartender had closed the serving window and joined the audience. No one wanted to miss the end of the story. Vecra signaled for one final drink. While he waited, he studied the young faces around him. He saw curiosity there, excitement, the same hunger for war stories that every young soldier carries. But now he also saw something else. A hint of fear, a shadow of understanding. Good. They were beginning to learn. His drink arrived. He held it without drinking, letting the silence stretch. After I was rescued, I spent many weeks recovering, he began. My body healed slowly. The Drell had done serious damage. But wounds of the flesh are simple. It was my mind that needed time. Quote, during those weeks, Tejo and Yuna visited me often. They brought food from their own supplies. They sat with me when the nightmares came. They treated me like family. The old veteran's voice softened. One night, I asked Yuna about her life before the war. She told me about her home, a small town near a mountain. She had 2 sisters and a mother who grew vegetables. She showed me a photograph she kept in her armor. Her family stood together in front of a wooden house, smiling at the camera. She looked different in that photograph. Her eyes were warm. Her smile reached her whole face. She looked like any young person on any world. Happy, hopeful, alive. Vecra took a small sip of his drink. I asked her how she could be that person in the photograph, and also the person who killed without hesitation. How she could hold such warmth and such cold inside herself. She thought about my question for a long time. Then she said that humans have always been 2 things at once. They are lovers and killers. They are healers and destroyers. They build cities and burn them down. It is their nature. She said that long ago, humans learned to separate these parts of themselves. They could put away the cold part when it was not needed. They could bring out the warm part for family and friends. But the cold part was always there, waiting, ready. The old veteran set down his glass. Then she told me something that made my blood freeze. She said that most species in the galaxy had evolved past their predator instincts. Millions of years of civilization had dulled their hunting urges, but humans were different. Humans had only been civilized for a small part of their history. A few thousand years. Their predator instincts were still fresh, still sharp, still hungry. She said that when humans fight, they are not pretending to be predators. They are remembering what they truly are. The civilization is the mask. The hunter is the face beneath. The gathered soldiers exchanged uneasy glances. Vecra continued. I thought about her words for many days. I watched the humans interact with each other and with us. I saw them laugh and joke and share meals. I saw them help wounded soldiers and comfort frightened civilians. They seemed so normal, so gentle, but I had seen the other side. I had seen Tejo walk through a fortress of enemies like they were nothing. I had seen Yuna kill with a smile on her face. I had seen 12 humans defeat thousands through patience and silence, and perfect, terrible skill. I had seen Yuna. Both sides were true. Both sides were real. And that is what makes humans the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Vecra leaned forward, his single eye intense. Most dangerous species show their threat openly. The Kreth have their size and strength. The Vor have their numbers and aggression. The Drell have their cunning and cruelty. You see these things and you know what you face. But humans? Humans hide their danger behind kind smiles and warm hearts. They will heal your wounds and share their food and treat you like beloved family. And then, when something threatens that family, they will transform into something ancient and terrible. He held up his damaged hand. The Drell thought they knew what humans were: small, weak, harmless. They learned the truth only when it was too late. Because humans do not show their teeth until they are ready to bite. One of the young soldiers spoke hesitantly. You said we should fear humans. But you also said they saved you, that they protected you like family. That seems like a reason for respect, not fear. Vecra smiled grimly. You are thinking like someone who has only known humans as allies. That is good. We are lucky to have them on our side. But let me tell you one more thing before I finish. He drained the last of his drink. After the war ended, I returned home. Years passed. I grew old. I thought my time with humans was just a memory. Then, 5 cycles ago, I heard news that made me understand the truth of what Yuna had told me. A colony on the edge of known space was attacked. Raiders from beyond the borders. They killed many settlers and took the rest as slaves. Among the taken were human children. The tavern grew even more silent. Vecra continued. The raiders thought they had done something profitable. Slaves are valuable. Children grow into obedient workers. They saw only opportunity. What they did not understand was that they had crossed a line that no one should ever cross. They had taken human young. And humans protect their young with a fury that makes war look gentle. Vecra's voice grew heavy. Within 1 cycle, a human fleet arrived at the raiders' territory. Not a military force, not an official response, just volunteers. Thousands of humans who had heard that children had been taken, thousands who had decided, on their own, to do something about it. They did not negotiate. They did not threaten. They did not give warnings. They simply began destroying everything the raiders had built. Every base, every ship, every hiding place. They hunted the raiders across 3 systems until not a single one remained alive. And when they found the children, when they discovered how the raiders had treated their young, they went further. They found the raiders' homeworld. They found the families who had supported the raids. They found everyone who had benefited from the suffering of those children. Vecra's voice dropped to a whisper. They killed them all. Every single one. They did not stop until the raiders were not just defeated. They were erased. Their culture, their history, their very existence. Gone, as if they had never been. The young female soldier looked horrified. That is genocide. Yes, Vecra said simply. It is. And the humans did not deny it. They did not apologize. They simply said that some actions have consequences. That anyone who hurts human children will face those consequences. No exceptions. No mercy. No escape. He set down his empty glass one final time. That is why I tell you to fear humans. Not because they are cruel. Not because they are monsters, but because they are capable of absolute love and absolute destruction. And they will choose which to show based on how you treat what they care about. Be their friend, and they will die for you. Protect their families, and they will protect yours. Treat them with honor, and they will honor you forever. But harm what they love, hurt their children, threaten their pack? Vecra stood slowly, his old joints creaking. Then you will learn why every predator in the universe, no matter how large or how fierce, learns to fear the small hunting apes from Earth. Because humans are not the strongest species. They are not the smartest, or the fastest, or the most numerous. But they are the most dangerous. Because they choose when to become monsters. And when they make that choice, nothing in this galaxy can stop them. He turned to leave, then paused and looked back at the silent crowd. Remember what I have told you. Pray that you always know humans as allies. Because the alternative is something no one should ever face. Remember what I have told you. Remember what I have told you. Old Vecra walked slowly toward the door. Behind him, the tavern remained silent. Every soldier there was thinking about what they had heard, thinking about the small, strange creatures from a small, strange world. And deep in their hearts, A new understanding was growing. An understanding that would stay with them forever. Humans were not to be underestimated. Humans were to be feared. And most importantly, humans were never, ever to be made into enemies. The tavern door closed behind Vecra. The night swallowed him up. And in the silence he left behind, young soldiers learned a lesson that no training could ever teach. Some warnings should be remembered, and some warnings should be passed on. This was both.